When my husband Mark spent $40,000 to turn our newly purchased suburban house into a fully automated smart home, he told me it was for my safety. He said that with all the hidden cameras, motion sensors, and automated locks, I would be the most secure woman in the state. What he didn't tell me was that he hadn't built a fortress to protect me. He had built a digital cage to monitor my every move, track my every conversation, and find a way to divorce me without paying a single dime of alimony. For 3 months, Mark and his mother sat in their office, watching my life through hidden lenses, laughing at how clueless I was. They thought they were the masters of technology. They thought they had trapped me. They had no idea that I wasn't just a clueless housewife. I am a senior network security engineer, and the moment I found his hidden server, I didn't get mad. I didn't confront him. I simply flipped the administrative access, mirrored the servers, and turned his expensive toys into a trap that recorded his entire family committing a federal crime. Before I tell you how I turned the cameras back on them and ruined their entire lives, if you love thrilling stories of clever revenge, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me immensely. And don't forget to drop a comment below letting me know which country or state you are watching from. Now let's go back to the beginning, to the day we moved into our dream home, and the first red flag that I chose to ignore. Mark and I had been married for 4 years. He worked as a real estate developer, a job that relied heavily on appearances, while I worked from home managing cybersecurity protocols for corporate clients. Because my job was remote and highly technical, Mark always downplayed it to his family. To his elitist mother, Victoria, I wasn't an engineer. I was just the girl who stares at a computer all day. Victoria never hid her disdain for me. She belonged to a family that believed wives should be decorative and compliant. Every holiday, she would make sure to remind me of my place. It must be so nice, Emily, to just sit in your pajamas all day while my son is out doing real work, securing multi-million-dollar land deals, Victoria would say, swirling her wine glass. A man of Mark's caliber needs a wife who can host galas, not someone who talks to routers and servers. Mark would never defend me. He would just tell me to ignore her. But lately, Mark had become obsessed with our finances. He had taken out a massive hard money loan to buy a historic estate that he wanted to flip for a profit. But the market was stalling, and the stress was eating him alive. That's when he announced we were moving. He bought a beautiful, secluded house outside the city. But the day we moved in, the house looked less like a home and more like a tech lab. There were smart screens in every room, smart mirrors in the bathrooms, and complex wiring running through the basement. It's a fully integrated ecosystem. Mark said proudly, showing me the central control tablet in the kitchen. Everything is automated. The lights, the locks, the climate control, and the security grid. I set up the master server in the basement under my personal account. You don't have to worry about a thing. Just use the guest access on your phone. I smiled and thanked him. As a tech professional, I usually handled the home networking. But Mark seemed so passionate about this project that I decided to step back and let him have his win. That was my first mistake. A week after we settled in, I noticed the first glitch. I was sitting in the living room reading a book when the smart thermostat on the wall suddenly clicked. The tiny camera lens at the top of the thermostat housing slowly rotated, adjusting its angle until it was pointing directly at my face. I stood up, walked over to it, and waved my hand. The lens immediately snapped back into place. I brushed it off as an automated calibration glitch. But 2 days later, while taking a shower, I noticed a tiny, flickering blue light behind the mesh of the smart ventilation speaker in the ceiling. A blue light that only appears when a data stream is actively uploading to a local server. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stared at that tiny blue light flickering in the ceiling. As a network security engineer, I knew exactly what that light meant. It wasn't an automated feature. It was a live video feed transmitting data. I didn't say a word. I finished my shower, dressed quietly, and waited until Mark left for his office the next morning. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed my diagnostic laptop and headed straight down to the basement. The master server cabinet was locked with a heavy digital keypad. Mark thought this would keep me out. But to me, a standard commercial digital lock is just a minor inconvenience. I connected my laptop directly to the external bypass port, ran a quick brute force script, and within 90 seconds, the server door clicked open. What I found inside made my blood run cold. Mark hadn't just set up a standard smart home grid. He had installed an independent encrypted local area network, LAN, with 16 hidden pinhole cameras scattered throughout the house, in the bedroom, the kitchen, my home office, and even the bathrooms. All the data was being routed to a hidden high-capacity solid-state drive, but it got worse. When I analyzed the network traffic logs, I saw that the server was actively mirroring all the data to a remote IP address. I traced the IP. It belonged to the private residential address of my mother-in-law, Victoria. They weren't just recording me. Victoria was watching my life like a reality TV show. I felt sick to my stomach, violated in my own home by the man who swore to protect me. My first instinct was to tear the cameras out of the walls, pack my bags, and call the police. But then, I stopped myself. If I did that, Mark would just hire a high-priced divorce lawyer, claim it was a home security misunderstanding, and use his family's influence to tie me up in court for years. I needed to know why they were doing this. Instead of cutting the wires, I used my administrative privilege to duplicate the server's root access. I created a hidden ghost account, mirrored the video feeds back onto my own secure cloud drive, and closed the server cabinet, leaving everything exactly as it was. Now they were watching me, but I was watching them watch me. 2 nights later, Mark announced he was having dinner at his mother's house to discuss a real estate deal and told me not to wait up. The moment he left, I opened my laptop, bypassed the security encryption on Mark's phone, and activated the remote microphone on the smart screen in Victoria's living room. I put on my headphones and listened. Victoria's voice came through crystal clear, dripping with her usual arrogance. "Did you check the office camera today, Mark?" she asked, her voice echoing through my headphones. "Did she access the corporate mainframe?" "Not today," Mark sighed, the sound of ice clinking in his glass audible. "She's just doing standard firewall maintenance for her clients. But she keeps her master security tokens on an encrypted flash drive in her desk drawer. I've been watching her type her master passwords for a week. I almost have the full alphanumeric sequence." I froze. They weren't just trying to find dirt on me for a divorce. It was infinitely more sinister. "Good," Victoria hissed, "because the lenders for the historic estate project are threatening to foreclose by the end of the month. If that happens, we lose everything, Mark. Our family name will be ruined. We need that cybersecurity insurance payout." "I know, Mother," Mark said, his voice tense. "The plan is foolproof. Once I copy her master encryption tokens from the camera footage, I will log into her firm's server from an external IP, stage a massive corporate ransomware breach, and drain the client escrow accounts. The firm's liability insurance will cover the loss, but the blame will fall entirely on Emily's security credentials. She'll look incompetent. She'll face federal negligence charges, and I can file for a fault-based divorce immediately. I'll get the house, zero alimony, and we use the drained funds to clear our real estate debt." They weren't just greedy. They were monsters. They were planning to commit a multi-million-dollar corporate cyberheist and frame me for it, completely destroying my career, my freedom, and my life, just to bail themselves out of a bad real estate investment. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the screen. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, volatile rage. I spent the next 48 hours building the ultimate digital trap, a honeypot. If Mark wanted my master encryption tokens, I was going to give them to him. But they wouldn't lead to my client's servers. I created a realistic, completely isolated dummy server on my laptop that looked exactly like the financial mainframe of my largest corporate client. Inside this fake server, I deposited several encrypted files that looked like million-dollar escrow accounts. In reality, they were digital tracking beacons embedded with self-executing system logs. The next evening, knowing Mark was watching the hidden camera in my office, I sat at my desk. I deliberately positioned my laptop screen so the camera could see it clearly. I pulled out a decoy flash drive, plugged it in, and typed out a specific, highly complex password sequence on my keyboard. I typed it slowly, making sure the high-resolution pinhole camera above my desk captured every single keystroke. I left the decoy flash drive sitting on the desk, stood up, and went downstairs to make dinner. Through my hidden phone log, I watched Mark enter my office 10 minutes later. He looked around nervously, grabbed the flash drive, inserted it into his own device, and copied the data. He thought he had just stolen the keys to the kingdom. He had no idea he had just swallowed the bait. Later that night, around 1 a.m., Mark thought I was fast asleep. I opened my laptop in bed under the covers. My honeypot server was lighting up. An external connection had just logged in, using the stolen credentials from an IP address registered to a cheap motel 3 miles away. Mark had gone there to commit the hack, thinking it would mask his location. I watched in real time as he initiated the file transfer to drain the fake escrow accounts into a private offshore shell company account that Victoria had set up. Every single click, every IP routing path, every keystroke, and the live video of him stealing the drive from my office was being compiled into a massive, undeletable federal evidence file on my secure cloud. He didn't just commit a crime. He did it while his own smart home cameras recorded the preparation, and my ghost server recorded the execution. The next morning was a beautiful, quiet Tuesday. Mark came downstairs dressed for work, humming a tune, looking incredibly relaxed. He actually poured me a cup of coffee and smiled. "You look tired, Emily," he said smoothly. "Did you sleep well?" "I slept wonderfully, Mark," I said, taking a sip. "By the way, I noticed the smart home system had a major server update last night. You might want to check the central panel." Mark frowned, walking over to the kitchen tablet. The screen was completely black, except for a single line of green text. "Admin access terminated. All port data forwarded to FBI Cyber Division." Mark's coffee mug slipped from his hand, shattering on the tile floor. What is this?" Before he could answer, the sound of heavy tires gripping the gravel driveway echoed through the house. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt outside. Through the large front windows, we watched 8 federal agents wearing tactical vests with FBI printed across the back step out, weapons drawn. "FBI, open the door! We have a federal warrant for the arrest of Mark Sterling and Victoria Sterling for conspiracy to commit bank fraud, corporate espionage, and illegal wiretapping." Mark turned to me, his face completely white, his lips trembling. "Emily, please. What did you do? Help me." "I didn't do anything, Mark," I said, standing up and stepping away from him as the front lock clicked open automatically, because I had programmed the smart house to welcome the police. "Your smart home worked perfectly. It kept me entirely safe. From you." The evidence was undeniable. The FBI cyber team told my lawyers they had never seen a more perfectly packaged corporate espionage case. The file I handed them included the live video of Mark stealing the encryption keys, the server logs proving the remote transmission to Victoria's house, and the audio recordings of them planning the entire heist in Victoria's living room. Victoria was arrested at her estate an hour later. Because they had actively initiated a wire transfer involving corporate escrow funds across state lines, they were charged with federal wire fraud and illegal electronic surveillance. Victoria's precious family name was instantly dragged through the dirt in every financial newspaper in New York to pay for their elite criminal defense lawyers and the outstanding debts on the historic estate. Victoria had to declare bankruptcy and sell the family properties at a massive loss. As for my divorce, the judge threw out the prenuptial agreement entirely. Under state law, a prenuptial agreement is voided if one party attempts to commit a heinous criminal act against the other. I was awarded the smart home entirely free of debt, along with a significant portion of Mark's remaining liquidated assets as compensation for the civil privacy violation. Today, I still live in the house. But the first thing I did was rip out every single one of Mark's hidden cameras and rebuild the network infrastructure from scratch. Mark and Victoria are currently serving an 8-year sentence in a federal penitentiary. They wanted to use technology to turn my life into a prison. In the end, their own greed was the only cage they couldn't break out of.